1 year later, and a new season is just beginning. Welcome to Seatown. I spent the first 2 months of the year back in Sydney, and when I came back, I rushed to start seeds. The wildlife corner has become a bit unruly, but there's still a lot growing. Right now is Aquilegia season, so we've got a variety of different colours and forms, which is really nice. I started a few from seed a few years ago, and a lot have self-seeded. The lavender unfortunately looks really woody, so I'm thinking about removing that and starting over again, maybe with something else. But the sedums are fine. Last April, we put a little pond in, and the pond has been one of my favorite things in the garden that I've added to. It really needs a thorough clean because there's so much algae and bits of plants that have kind of just mushed into the water. But I'm scared to disturb the pond snails and the frogs that live in there. So I've got to figure that out. But yeah, the area is really overgrown, which I really need to deal with. The next part of the garden is still bare. I'm going to redo these 3 beds and turn it into 4. It's just easier for me to work with smaller beds than what they are currently. The long bed next to it, I'm just going to leave as it is. I've already planted some peppers, eggplants, and some potatoes near the fence. I mulched it with straw, but unfortunately the crows love playing in it. So basically every time I go back to the garden, I have to sweep up the straw and put it back on the beds. This section is kind of new. This part we've turned 3 beds into 4, and we've put wooden beds around each to make them higher. I've already planted a lot of lettuces and brassicas, and I've covered them in nets. We filled each of the beds with homemade compost from the garden, which is really nice and cheap because the wood was not cheap. So this bed is not covered, so you can kind of see some insect damage. I think it should be fine. I've got some lettuces on the other end, which are doing pretty well considering the crows are just digging around and having their fun. And I also made a trellis with some sheep fencing and these metal pipes. Underneath the plum tree, everything is looking really nice from afar, but when you look closely, there's actually a lot of aphids. So my hellebores are being attacked right now by thousands and thousands of aphids, which is gross, but sure, I'll just let them do their thing. There's a lot of weeds underneath the plum tree, and you can kind of see where we've weeded and where we haven't. It's quite obvious. It is definitely a continuous job. The plum tree is doing pretty well. We had a really nice bloom. There was a lot of flowers last month, and we have lots and lots of little baby plums. Our grape pergolas are coming to life. I did a really heavy prune of them in the winter. And we're trying to train it over the pergola, but we've never grown grapes before, so we really don't know what we're doing. It looks nice though. Not much else is growing in this part of the garden except for some broad beans under the cover and some parsley from last year. The garden bed underneath the apple tree is full of self-seeded flowers from last year. And we have a lot of little apples growing as well. There was probably hundreds of apple blossoms last month. If they all take, I'm going to have to thin out the little apples, that's for sure. I'm still kind of figuring out what to do with this specific space in the garden. I'm not sure if I should just add more mini fruit trees and underplant it with flowers, but that's something I can still keep thinking about. This fence is actually a new addition, well, newish. We added this last year. It was one of our big main projects. The previous fence was kind of rotting away, and because essentially the garden next door is abandoned, I see the owners maybe twice a year. They do one big garden day and then I never see them again for the rest of the year. You can see the big difference between our garden and theirs. They have a lot of ground elder on their side, and we've removed it from our side. So that's why we really needed a good fence. Most of this side of the garden is still empty. Basically, the only thing that is growing right now is the strawberries. This is the strawberry bed that I planted last year. So they've got Mar de Bois and Favori strawberries. They're flowering now, so I should be harvesting maybe by the end of this month. I've planted in this patch potatoes. This is a self-seeded calendula. Inside the greenhouse, I have a bunch of things. So these are some eggplants and peppers, like aubergines and paprikas. These are some leftover lettuces I still need planting in, and I have a lot of dahlias. Too many dahlias that I couldn't put them all in pots. This is another trellis that I made that hasn't been put in the ground yet. So those are all my dahlias that I've potted up. And there's some broccoli, and I believe those are more brassicas. It's getting very warm these days. So when I was filming, it was 31 degrees in the greenhouse. So these are some flowers. They've got some sunflowers, some zinnias, some coreopsis and rudbeckia. And yeah, there's a lot of flowers that I would like to put into the garden. We're going back into vegetables. So we've got some sweet corn. I think this variety is called Tasty Sweet, which is an F1 hybrid variety. I've never had it before. And the rest are like lettuces and spinach and more brassicas, a few onions. Didn't have a really good seed, and these are like pumpkins and courgettes and stuff. So that's pretty much it for the tour for Seatown for this month. There's still a lot to do, a lot to plant, and hopefully I'll show you what it's going to be next month. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!